I'm Jared.
I'm Brandon.
And this is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast, AEW's Road Rager, NXT's Great American Bash, all in front of fans, and there's so much more of that on the horizon. We'll talk that. And Aleister Black making his AEW debut as the Heel to the Face podcast starts right now.
Fans celebrate with me from Rome to Rochester.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
So this is another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. Make sure you follow us on social media at Heel to the Face. A lot to talk about after taking a week off. And well, Raw this week and SmackDown this week, we're not in front of a live crowd. So frankly, I don't care because right now, I only care about wrestling that is in front of people. And next week, WWE is going to be back in front of people again.
Thank God.
And out of Florida. Not just in front of people, but out of Florida. We're still yet to go there with AEW this week. The first crowd in front of people that wasn't Jacksonville, but still in the state of Florida as they moved on to Miami. But next week, AEW's in Texas. WWE's in Texas. This Sunday, Ring of Honor's in Baltimore, Maryland, which is kind of one of the more unique places just for the fact that we're in the north. We knew the South was fine.
The South, they do things a little differently.
They've been fine for quite a while, but now we're moving actually to the north. And WWE actually just announced recently that SmackDown's coming to Madison Square Garden come September. So, yeah, we're moving in the right direction with people. We're moving in the right direction with not just people, but moving out of like Thunderdomes and places we've been this whole time.
And hopefully turning the corner with COVID forever.
And NXT in front of people this week, as they've been for a while, but like AEW had been in front of the same people for yet another week. But either way, definitely worth talking about. As we'll start with NXT Great American Bash this past week. This second NXT Great American Bash, not to be confused with the old WWE Great American Bash, which turned to the Bash, which turned to just being phased out in general. First off, what do you make of NXT using this Great American Bash name? I guess my thing is, why aren't we moving these to like regular pay-per-view names? Why do we still have to have TakeOver? Why can't like Great American Bash just be the next pay-per-view? Why does it got to be the TV thing? I don't know marketing that well.
I don't mind it because I think it creates a little more interest than it's just a regular NXT, every week.
No, I get it. I get it.
It's a marketing deal. They're trying to get the ratings up. And we're going to talk about ratings in a little bit because Raw, that's a whole different topic. But Great American Bash, I got to get your thoughts on it because I got some interesting takes on it.
No, I mean, Great American Bash, a good show overall. I think the Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole match was amazing, was great.
Fantastic match.
Worthy of your main event.
But I'm nitpicking. I don't like the fact that Kyle O'Reilly didn't win. Like, we're just going to keep doing this feud. It just reminds me a lot of what Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, well, actually, they just did it again on SmackDown this past week. Like, let's freshen things up. Like, I was hoping we'd get past the Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, matchup, the feud.
And I think we did, even though,
No, it's a tiebreaker now. It's tied up 1-1, if I'm not mistaken.
So do you think we're getting one more match because at the next NXT
TakeOver?
All
scores, yes. Yeah, I think we're going to get something. I'm hoping they kind of put a kibosh to Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and have them do some fresh matchups after maybe, I'm thinking SummerSlam is right around that time, I think is when
you're saying you want them to separate before they come back for that third? Or do you want to get that third out of the way?
I want the third out of the way. I'm thinking they're going to do it around SummerSlam. And then I think what would be nice, getting ready to get towards the end of the year, I think you get some fresh matchups. Don't get me wrong, the matches are fun, but I like having those fresh rivalries. I like those, but I want to freshen things up. The match itself was good, no questions asked. I'm ready to freshen things up because let's be honest, WWE as a whole needs to freshen things up.
NXT was kind of unique this week, and not just this week in general, but remember the Diamond Mine?
Yeah,
what happened to them? I mean, I guess they didn't show up at all, but
Well, no. Here's the thing too with Diamond Mine. What's happening here is, and by all accounts, Roderick Strong's going to get a major push. So that's where we're just
leaving him out of Great American Bash.
Yeah, I don't know. That was odd. That was odd booking, but I believe from everything that I've seen by all accounts out there, I think Roderick Strong's going to be he's going to have a big push coming.
Because I thought maybe that when we talk about the main event, I thought maybe we would see Diamond Mine come into the main event there. Just like they did the main event a few weeks ago.
What I'm thinking is, and this is not, this, I don't know if it's true or not, but what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is cruiserweight. Roderick Strong, and then you got what's his name there, Santos Escobar.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be something fun to watch. The cruiserweight division could use a Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong could be the face of that, or even have one of those feuds like Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. So Santos Escobar and Roderick Strong. That would be fun. That I would enjoy that.
If 205 Live, that's right, that's still a show, folks. If 205
Wait,
Live,
I haven't seen it.
I'm not actually even sure. I believe it's still a show from what I see on social media. I haven't watched it either. But if it's still a show and we integrate the Diamond Mine into 205 Live, are we watching 205 Live, or are we still not interested if they're not on the NXT show itself? Like if they're like a 205 Live exclusive faction.
Oh, that would suck. That would be awful. I think it'd be good to have them in NXT. 205 Live, I just think it's always been a dud.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they've had some moments where they could have taken the brass ring and done something with it. For example, when they had what's our boy there, Enzo Amore.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done something with that. It was a short-term thing where they got some extra eyeballs. They dropped the ball there.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I wonder if this is going to return. I haven't heard anything else, but next week, Friday Night SmackDown, in front of crowd again, is 205 Live going to be live at 10 o'clock as it was following Friday Night SmackDown or Tuesday SmackDown?
That's interesting because I don't know.
Because it's been the NXT brand this whole time, and yes, I think NXT not just made it their brand, but they've been filming it in the Capitol Wrestling Center and officially making 205 Live really their brand. But is it going to return in front of a live crowd again after SmackDown? And that could bring up some interest because people like myself who might attend to SmackDown, I'll stick around and watch free wrestling 205 Live. Why not? And if I stick around and watch it in person, well, then I'm going to get intrigued. And just like any sporting event, you go watch a band, a pre-band before the main band you go see. Sure. All of a sudden you're like, I'm going to go check them out. I'm going to go buy their CD or whatever. And that's what you do with 205 Live. I go to SmackDown, I stick around, I watch 205 Live, I get intrigued.
Is that still a thing where you buy CDs?
That is not still a thing. 205 Live might still not be a thing, as I said. Who even knows? But
nowadays it's like,
but if it,
scan your barcode to get access to the album, something like that now.
Yeah, and that's what barcode?
Nowadays what they do is if you're trying to do anything, you can especially with COVID, you go to a restaurant before in the middle of the pandemic. Instead of giving you menus, they put a barcode on the table and you scan it.
That's what they try to do, and then I tell them, no, bring me a menu, and they go find me a menu. Because I'm not giving into that yet. I'm not giving into that yet, no.
Oh, you're one of those.
No, I'm one of those people. Give me a regular menu. Because unless the price is cheaper for me getting off of the fake menu or the
fake menu, it's just the menu on digital. It's a digital. It's like a PDF.
I'm going out for the experience. If I wanted to just get food to go and put in a styrofoam container and take it to my house, I would do that. I'm sitting down, and part of the sitting down and having it served to me is getting the real menu so I don't have to take out the phone. And that's the crazy thing while we're on this, people always talk about while you're out to dinner, how the world is becoming more, I guess not as social in the sense of people are always on their phone. You're making me use my phone. The one time where I'm like, you know what? I was on my phone all day looking at social media, the internet. For once, I can actually have an excuse to put the phone in the pocket because I have a menu in front of me. And now you're like, no, put your phone back out. And it's like, I'm trying to get off the phone.
Well, I will give you that last point is legit because when I go to dinner, it's kind of a rule at my with my parents anyways. If we're all going out to dinner, like my mom's old school, if you got your phone out, she'll kind of give you the look, and then if you keep going on your phone, she'll kind of take the phone or smack it in the hand.
As I get older, I am somebody who is trying my best to use my phone less and less.
Same here.
You know what I mean? I grew up in a time where phones obviously weren't existent, and I lived without it. And as I get older, I'm just trying to use my phone less and less. Kids these days, I don't think they're trying. If you're 17 years old, you're not trying to use your phone less and less. You're just using it more and more. And you don't know, because you don't know anything different, and you can't think of a time when there was no phones. But me, I'm always like, I should use my phone less and less. People are like, well, stop talking about it. Just do it. And you're like, you're right. I should.
Yeah, get off the Instagram, Jared.
And I'm trying to do the best I can. So anytime I can, meaning anytime that's just straight up in front of me. Like if I'm on a roller coaster and it would be more difficult for me to pull my phone out than use it, then yeah.
I got to tell you, it was very refreshing because I know we took a week off. I took some time off myself, went up to camp. No cell service. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Don't need it. I literally just, I'm just hanging out, man. It was so refreshing because I'm not wondering who tweeted what today or who was on Facebook doing this.
But
it's nice.
And it's more because it is a little bit of an addiction. So to stop that addiction, it's not so much you just tell yourself don't do it, but you actually have to physically come up with a way where you can't do it. Like you said, no cell service meant that you didn't have a choice. So
it was nice. I just put the phone aside.
Yeah, so it's better to be in that situation. So like when I'm out to dinner, I like the real menu because it's like here is an excuse. Here is something in which I don't want to use my phone, and now you're like making me use my phone. I'm like, no, I don't.
You're not on board.
I'm not on board with that. So with 205 Live still being in existence, if it is still in existence, that might be going away as CDs. But it can come back again if they're going to film these 205 Lives after SmackDown is over. People obviously stick around. The one thing that I noticed in the past that had to get them to stick around, because I went to some SmackDowns myself, is you had a WWE match after 205 Live. That's what they used to try to do to lure people to stick around.
We're going to have Raw. We're going to have Randy Orton and Samoa Joe or something.
Exactly.
Like that.
They would always announce, like, during SmackDown commercial breaks, like, don't leave after SmackDown's over. We got a main event coming your way or whatever after this is all over with, to try to get people to stick around.
Yeah.
But, I always stuck around for 205 Live. Why not? It's free. And again, I'm out and about. I went to SmackDown to
the wrestling
go do
isn't
something.
bad. I'm not going out of my way to watch 205 Live, but if I have the opportunity, like if we go to a WWE event, whenever they come back to upstate, then hey, maybe we'll stay and watch 205 Live.
I haven't ever been to a SmackDown on a Friday night yet, because it's so crazy to think that how long SmackDown has been on Friday nights. It hasn't been on Friday nights in front of a crowd for that short of October, November, December, January, February. So 5 months and like a week. So 5 months and a week it was in front of a crowd on Friday nights, because seems it's been almost 2 years since it's been on Fox on Friday nights.
Well, yeah, we're past
90% of it's been during the pandemic.
We're almost through a year and a half of this pandemic. So
yeah,
I can't believe that. We've been cranking through this entire time.
So it's crazy to think that it's only, and same with AEW. AEW was only on the road for about 6 months when the pandemic hit. And
let's not get started on that one. I'm still sore about that. We talk about that a lot.
So I'm very curious once Friday Night SmackDown is back on Fridays full time. I
just want to get to AEW.
I feel like I would have attended a SmackDown by now.
It's been almost a year and a half.
We'd have been attending. I'd have been going back to AEW. AEW would have been making a return trip to Rochester by now.
Yeah, we would have probably had at least 1 or 2 shows. In the year and a half, because here's the thing: there's quite a great wrestling base in Rochester.
Buffalo would have hit up a show by now. Syracuse would have had a show. Utica would have had a show. Binghamton, because literally they only were traveling for 6 months, and now they would have been.
And here's the thing:
they would have been traveling for 24 months almost at this time.
They'd be doing it Blue Cross? I was gonna say Blue Cross Arena. Isn't it?
It is.
It's not a huge venue, just like where AEW was last night for Road Rager. Great name, by the way. I think it was 5,000 people?
Yeah, it was like an auditorium in Miami. Great crowd, except for that one guy who tried jumping in the ring with Chris Jericho and MJF.
But I have to say, this is why I love live TV, and this is why I love Chris Jericho and MJF. They put it into their promo. That was great. They were like, I should have just let the fat guy beat you up. That was great.
And
that's just improvising. That's fantastic.
It kind of does stink a little bit because it took so long to get crowds back, and then you're sitting here making not them regret being in front of crowds, but they're like, oh yeah, I forgot we didn't have to do this crap. This is what we got to deal with when we have these idiots come.
But I got to tell you, what I've noticed when I watched Road Rager last night, seeing who's over and whatnot, that was cool. I thought overall, I thought Road Rager I thought it was pretty good from top to bottom, except the one match I didn't care about was the QT Marshall match. I'm not a fan.
Hopefully that's over with now. It's Cody Rhodes and Aleister Black, or Malachi Black, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm interested to see that, because it's going to be a clash of different styles because of Cody's background in amateur wrestling, and then you have the martial arts background of Aleister Black. It's kind of a nice clash of different styles, so that'll be fun. I'm sorry. No disrespect to QT Marshall. I can't buy into what he's doing. I don't get it. I'm one of those where I'm ready for him to get off TV.
So since we've been off, which has only been about 2 weeks, but still in that period of time, the entire power couple of Aleister Black and Zelina Vega have both made their debuts on television, one returning to WWE.
Yeah. Very surprised by that.
Yes. So she returned to WWE, which when that happened, made me all but assume that Aleister Black was coming back to WWE.
You would think, because they're,
Yeah. And
married,
then a week later, he debuts on AEW.
And I got to tell you, that segment where, the way they did it was smart. They had like the weather issues down in Florida, where in the beginning there was during the QT Marshall match, the lights went out and all that. So the next time it happened, you're like, oh, here we go, the weather's screwing up. And then the black light, the lights come back on. Aleister Black attacks,
and he still had the black eye. So is he taking over from the SmackDown issue?
I think
so he's taking that storyline right over to AEW.
And I think it's genius, by the way. I think it's genius. And here's the thing too. and not nitpicking it too much, but when you see Aleister Black, debut, and you see him and you hear the commentators, they were like they were trying to figure out what to call him, and it was like at first they were calling him Tommy N, which is his name, and then they went to Malachi Black, which it was a weird transition, but we got there. Malachi Black, that's his name.
Because that's what he has been saying on like social media or whatever. I believe.
And
so that's kind of the name he kind of put out there, so you knew
I don't know
what
if
to call him.
I don't know if you saw, but Buddy Murphy reached out, and so I'm thinking maybe they're going to plant some seeds. A little Buddy Murphy, Aleister Black. They bring it over to AEW. I would love to see that again.
Where do you see Aleister Black? Because we had Andrade make his AEW debut match.
First, before we get to that, so who's getting fired for the 30-day clause versus the 90-day clause? How do you mess that up on a clerical error? That's whew.
And actually, I see. I learned about this now. What we're talking about here is that Malachi Black, Tommy End, Aleister Black, whatever you call him, he made his way over to AEW thanks to only being under a 30-day no-compete clause, which is apparently standard for NXT talent, and 90 days is standard for Raw and SmackDown talent, but they never changed him over to the 90 days when he moved over to the SmackDown
the paperwork
brand.
Wasn't updated, so to speak.
What that makes me think is, because I didn't know about this, is that's another reason why you would want to stay in NXT.
It's true, because then if you get let go, you're only off TV for a month and you go to another promotion.
Yeah, so
or you're taking bookings.
So like Adam
events.
Cole, Finn Balor, Kyle O'Reilly, all these people who could be getting, or Johnny Gargano could be getting called up. Why would you want to get called up for them to not be able to use you right on Raw or SmackDown? And from what we've been talking about, and where you're going to lead us into Raw ratings, which are no better than NXT, so you're not going to essentially the major leagues in that sense.
No.
And then when you get let go because they don't know how to write TV for you,
they don't know how to book you.
Then you have to go 90 days without competing instead of NXT, where you're being booked properly. If for some reason you get let go, you only got to wait 30 days.
You're only out for a month.
You're still kind of hot when you get picked up.
I think here's the thing too, and I think you make a good point, because you're gonna. I think I'm pretty sure the Adam Coles and the Kyle O'Reillys of the world, Finn Balor's maybe they have that in their his contract as well. You don't think they took note of that? Come on. If they didn't know this already, they're taking notes. I got to tell you, Aleister Black, now Malachi Black, I think he did I think that was a great way of debuting him. I like what he's doing, where he's pulling over the injury to his eye over to AEW programming. And no, he's not Tommy End. This is Tommy End with the eye issue, who looks like a serial killer. And now he's Malachi Black. I thought it was fantastic. I'm really happy about that. Also, another in-ring debut of our buddy there, Andrade. Yeah, that was.
So that leads into the Aleister Black thing, where with Andrade making his debut, you kind of wonder, with all these people moving over to AEW, where do you see them? Are they going to move in? What I'm trying to get at is the main event picture here.
Sure.
And are they going to jump right in the main event picture? Because that's the thing. We always talk about all these guys coming over to AEW, but the thing about wrestling, whether it's WWE or AEW, you need to have role players. And right now, AEW is just bringing over like a lot of guys. Like, I'd like to see him fight for the world championship. I'd like to see him fight for the world championship.
Well, here's the thing.
We need.
Here's what I'll say to that. I think, especially with Malachi Black, we'll stick to him for a second. I think having Cody as his first real feud, I think it's fantastic booking. I think they're doing a great job with that, because Cody doesn't need the belt. He's wearing so many different hats, but Cody is very over with the fans, obviously. So what better person to get your AEW career started than having a feud, with Cody Rhodes? I think it's fantastic. I think they're booking Malachi Black pretty well. And I think what will happen is there's going to be a chain of events. You're going to have a feud with Cody. You might see a feud with the Murder Hawk Monster. You might see him do that. You might see, maybe we'll see cross paths with Al Idolo there. You might see Andrade and him. The thing is, they got to do a slow build. That's the key. You don't just bring somebody in and then, okay, he has a feud with Cody. Now he's going to face Kenny Omega. You can't do that. That makes zero sense. I think that's poor booking. I think AEW is smart enough to realize that. That's why you're not seeing like Christian Cage getting title after title after title shot. I think AEW does it better.
Well, yeah, because that's what Impact Wrestling did back in the day. Christian came over and he was immediately the champion.
He's not in WWE anymore. We got to put the belt on him. Yeah. You don't need to do that.
Bubba Ray Dudley. All these people.
You can give these other AEW stars that have never wrestled in WWE, like a Jungle Boy, for example. You give him that rub against somebody who wrestled in WWE, it's just going to make the talent even better. So when you bring these WWE superstars in, yes, they came from a WWE way, so they're gonna show some of these guys how to do it even better. Like AEW way is fantastic, that's fine, but it's gonna make a guy like Jungle Boy, who's never been in WWE, that much better. Same thing with Darby Allin. They're gonna make these guys so much better. And I think AEW, to be honest with you, I think across the board, maybe aside from the women's division, I think the women's division is still a little bit better in WWE. But I think across the board, I think overall, I think AEW is better.
I don't necessarily
right
say
now.
the women's division in WWE is better. I want to just be specific, like NXT.
Yes. I'm saying across the WWE, I guess spectrum, if you want to call it that. I mean across the board, if you put everything all together, I think AEW, from a creative booking perspective and who they have in those who they have on the roster, I think WWE is in big trouble.
The
NXT
NXT women's tag team belts moved on Great American Bash this past week.
Well, yeah, it was because what's her face came back, Tegan Knox.
Yes. So they've been moving a little bit. They've probably been the belt that's been moving the most, the NXT women's tag belt.
Yeah, but you know what though? I don't like when belts get changed so often. I like where I'm not expecting somebody to be champion for 5 years. I mean, I'm not expecting that. Walter might at this point. He's been champion
with
forever,
WWE, the main belts. I mean, I know that they're probably changing soon, or at least one of them's going to be changing at SummerSlam. But I like
it's not
that.
Roman Reigns.
I like that. I like the fact that Roman Reigns became champion essentially last year at SummerSlam.
Oh, I love it too.
And he's still champion. And Bobby Lashley became champion right before February, right after he took it from The Miz.
Yeah, but he'll have it for like 6 months.
And he's had it. Well, I mean, yeah, he's had it already for 6 months. I mean, because he took it
just about
the second month of the year, and now it's the 7th month, so
close.
like 5 months.
Yeah, I mean, by SummerSlam it'll be 6 months.
Yes,
which is fine.
So, which is good because there you go. You got two belts that have changed hands. You know, obviously with the one belt with Drew, then Miz, it kind of went back and forth a little bit
for a second.
But essentially, Drew, Randy Orton, The Miz, Bobby Lashley, those are your 4 champions in the last year and a half.
Which I'm okay with that.
18 months.
Because you don't need title change.
With one of those titles, with a bunch of those title changes happening like within like a month, with the Randy Orton, then giving it back to Drew, then The Miz. So with that happening within like a 2-month span, essentially there has been 16 of the 18 months of the last 18th month have no title change.
Which is
for that belt.
That's I like that. I don't like I just don't like when titles get changed so much, because to me, I feel like it ruins the prestige to the championship a little bit. That's just me. It kind of does that to me. But speaking of that, you know who makes the title prestigious? Karrion Kross. Absolutely fantastic what he's been doing.
Do you think he's going to be walking out with the belt next week against Johnny Gargano on NXT?
100%. I'm not even worried about it.
Are you excited for starting next week, the NXT Breakout Tournament? These new guys, NXT. I only been following this a little bit because some of the guys that have been in the tournament, two specifically, I've seen them back in the day in New York independent wrestling, and I've been following them and some of their significant others on social media, and have known them, through social media, and been following them for years and years and years.
Yeah,
kind of thing, because I've seen them at Excite Wrestling, I've seen them at New England Championship Wrestling, Upstate New York Wrestling, whatever. Yep. So it kind of started from just following them as like indie guys who had like 400 followers to like, hey, that's Joe Gacy, from Binghamton, or not from Binghamton, but wrestled in Binghamton. And he's going to be in that breakout tournament. So I'm actually looking forward to that a little bit, to see these guys. Some of these guys have been signed. I remember when they got signed like about a year ago.
What happened to the guy that was like the Brock Lesnar lookalike? I thought he was going to be doing
He's
something.
still there. I don't think he's going to be in this breakout tournament because I think they have more for him. Patrick Bordeaux.
That's his name.
Yes,
Bordeaux,
I thought he was going to make his debut with Eva Marie.
Or Eva Marie, yeah. That's
yes.
what I was thinking. Yep.
But
I'm going to tell you a name to look out for in that new, like the future of future wrestling stars. I think Carmelo Hayes is going to be fantastic. He's done a little bit of work already. He's had some good matches. He's been showing out. I think that's the name to watch out for in this little tournament. I think Carmelo Hayes is going to win it.
I mean,
the kid is good. He the things he's done in the ring, yes. Has he come up short in the matches? Yes. But he's faced some of the top tier wrestlers in NXT, and he's held his own. He's made these matches look pretty damn good. He doesn't have to have like the Adam Coles of the world kind of carrying you. He put on a good show. So Carmelo Hayes is a guy that I think the stars are going to be aligned for him soon. He's going to be pretty big.
With AEW back on the road, Tony Khan did say one thing. Thank God. He did say this recently, I think.
About the pyro?
About the pyro.
I knew you were going there.
You knew I'm not letting that one slide.
I know
after months or weeks or whatever, him saying, like, downplaying the pyro.
Tony didn't let it slide either.
But he did let it slide originally because he tried downplaying it, like, hey, what'd you expect? We weren't going to blow the guys up or some other nonsense. But then months later, he comes out and says that, no, it wasn't supposed to happen that way. It wasn't just bad expectation. It wasn't supposed to happen that way.
So what was the results of that?
He apparently got $100,000 worth of pyro refunded to him.
Yeah,
didn't have to pay the bill on it.
Nope. The pyrotechnic company ate the cost.
But when it first happened, he wasn't saying, I'm super mad at the pyrotechnic company. He's like, yeah,
things happen. Yeah.
That's what it was supposed to do. You guys you just have such a thirst for blood.
He was just being a businessman. He was just trying to be smart. He doesn't want to throw this pyrotechnic company under the bus because it could have been one of those things where it was a human error thing, and you don't want to burn bridges, and that's what he's doing. And then later he comes out in the interview. I think it was busted open or cage side seats. Something like that. Something along those lines. Came out and said, "Yeah, I didn't pay for it. They ate the cost."
Yeah. So are
you happy now?
Yes.
Okay.
Because on the surface, it's like a baseball manager being like, it's going to be a home run. Oh, it's caught at the outfield. We can't win every single game. Come on, folks. It's baseball. We went 16-0. We lost the game. Get over it. That's what happens in baseball. And then 5 minutes later, walks in his locker room and goes, you son of a bitch. You didn't hit that home run. We should have went 17-0.
Come on. You can't get under
That's
that
him.
ball
That's
so
him being
much.
like, what'd you expect? Come on, you wrestling fans. You have such a thirst for blood. You'll never happy. I think it was fine. It's you wrestling fans. You just expect too much. And then 5 minutes later, he gets on the phone. He's like, you son of a bitch, you screwed it all up.
You know what? It's funny. You were more upset about it than I was, I remember, because we talked about it in great length. I wasn't as upset, but I'm glad. I think we finally put a nail in that coffin, so to speak. So I think we can move past
Yes, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yes.
That was a mess up on their end. So essentially they admitted it. Personally, though, without going too far into it, it should have just not happened. Like we said this before, and I'll say it again. It could have went off the air without the
just
pyro
like
doll.
Yep.
It could have just went off the air. We didn't need the extra.
You make a valid point. I'm
Then
not
you
gonna
wouldn't have had to
deny
spend.
that. Yes.
So you're telling me if it went off the way he spent $100,000 on that ending?
Yeah, that's not money well spent either way.
Yeah,
Even if it was a good
save the $100,000, you could literally pay a whole talent's yearly salary with that $100,000. I mean,
well,
yeah.
at least maybe he used some
And
of
you
that
could have
money
went
that-
off the air without the pyro.
Hey, he probably used that $100,000. He got refunded, on something. So hey, I mean, Tony Khan's a very smart businessman. He knows what he's doing.
Because I will say this much, WCW back in the day, this is one thing I'll give them credit for, is their big gimmick was going off the air, always having you wanting more. They would always go off the air on Nitro without the finish of a match.
Yeah,
now,
that was fun.
Sometimes it's a little too much because you're like, dude, you promised us this match, and now we're going off the air without a finish. What the hell?
Well, the nice thing, but Bischoff was onto something there because then you're like, and this is before obviously social media,
Yes.
where somebody in the crowd's like, oh, I heard it went off the air. Here's what happened. You know? But back in the day, Eric Bischoff had the pulse, and you're like, literally, you hear Tony Schiavone sign off. All right, you have to see what happens next week.
Yeah, that's how we ended. We'll see you next week, and that's kind of in this AEW sense with this pyro. We didn't need the pyro. It was a good ending. You kind of leave us wanting more with. You just have Eddie Kingston come down to Jon Moxley at the time, and what's going on? It kind of just, is he on his side? Is he not on his side? We'll find out on Dynamite. Good night. You know what I mean? We didn't need the explosion. We didn't need all that nonsense. But moving on, NXT, apparently they're looking to get T-Mobile Arena the night after SummerSlam for the next NXT TakeOver. What's interesting about this is if NXT's on, because a lot of people, me, you included, talk about NXT always being the show of the weekend, always being better than WWE. In this instance, they would be on the Sunday night. They would be your main event pay-per-view.
That'd be kind of cool.
Is that good or bad for the WWE main roster?
I think it's bad for them. I think it's great for NXT. Simple as that.
It's not going to be at Allegiant Stadium in front of the big crowd, but either way, it's going to be
here's the
what
thing.
the weekend is essentially goes off
the
with.
NXT fans, the NXT universe, they are a diehard breed.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's a smaller audience, you're going to feel the energy more in that arena versus at Allegiant Stadium.
And I agree with that to an extent too. And one thing I will say about SummerSlam, and it's we're leading into SummerSlam here, where they've been talking about it's going to be the real WrestleMania. But one thing I've noticed, it's almost about sold out at 41,000 seats. Now the Royal Rumbles the last 2 years treated not like WrestleMania, but treated very bigly.
Yep.
Were about 45,000. So even at the end of the day, this Allegiant Stadium, they're really advertising this huge stadium, really making it out like it's going to be like this year's WrestleMania. At the end of the day, they're going to have what is less, the second largest crowd of the year. And essentially, if the Royal Rumble took place in front of fans, could have been the third or fourth largest crowd of the year.
Here's the question: how many seats does Allegiant Stadium hold?
Like 75,000.
So it's like half full.
They're gonna do it like half of. They're literally putting like a curtain up or something, and they're gonna use half. So while they're advertising,
why though? Why is that? Is it still because of COVID? Is that
no? I don't think it's because of COVID. I think it's because they want the location of Las Vegas, but they want to do bigger than the arena. But at the same time, and they want to do where they can hype it up like it's a WrestleMania. Allegiant Stadium, look at the overhead shot of that stadium. We're going here.
It's gonna look almost like the Alamo Dome in a way.
Yes.
The Alamo Dome has that curtain.
Yes.
That's so. Well, here's the thing, and we were teasing a little bit later.
Except for when the Alamo Dome had the Royal Rumble there, they used the whole place.
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
But I mean, I've seen it for basketball games where they've done that.
So
Here's the thing. Here's what I'm thinking. Now that you mentioned that, do you think WWE sees the writing on the wall? And we were talking about it just a little bit ago, teasing it. But the ratings for Raw are the lowest they've ever been in 28 years since 1993 when Raw came on the air. This is the lowest rating we've ever seen. It only drew 1.1 million. That's it. That's insane, by the way. And I get we're in the middle of summer, this and that, but the ratings have been steadily declining for a while. And my issue is you have AEW closing in on 1 million most weeks. They're closing in on 800 to 900,000.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make Vince nervous a little bit? You got to tell me.
We got one more Raw in the Thunderdome, and then we're in front of crowds, and then I'm very interested. I think this following week might also be a low rating Raw, but the next
let me ask you this: does it go under 1 million?
I don't know about this week.
It went from 1.3 to 1.1. So if we're on track, if it goes down another 2.5,
I don't know if it'll go down, but it won't go up. That's what I'm just trying to say.
I think it's gonna. It's gonna be under 1 million.
But I think the sun is on the horizon here because you have Money in the Bank coming up in front of people. And the night after Money in the Bank will be the first Raw in front of people again. And I think the intrigue there. I guess that's the thing. I mean, this is the silliest, stupidest thing, I'll admit. But part of watching wrestling or part of watching sports is watching the crowd.
You see how the crowd interacts and all that. Yes.
So is the event, and for some reason, I feel like the performers when they're in front of crowds, whether it be real sports or scripted sports, they seem to bring it up a notch. And it seems to have more of that feel. And then you know for sure it's live. Because I know every week they tell us Raw is live, and I hear that, and SmackDown's live. But when it's in front of a crowd, you know for sure. Because this week's Raw is going to be taped. It's going to be taped, I think, on Sunday, this upcoming week after SmackDown's over. You know what I mean? And they might still say it's live. And how would we know the difference? We wouldn't really. So when it's in front of a crowd, we don't have to take their word for it. We know it's live.
Well, that's the thing, too. That's what I'm really looking forward to seeing. Is if a lot of the WWE universe is just tuned out because they're just like, okay, I'm taking a break until they get fans in. And I know this to be true for people that I know. Like my dad's been a wrestling fan forever. That's how I got into wrestling. We wouldn't have this podcast if it wasn't for my dad showing me the wrestling world at a young age. And even I just talked to him, this past week we were up at camp, and he's like, Brandon, when are they coming back with fans? And I, because he always knows, because he knows I follow it. I said to him, it was like right around your birthday, middle of July. I was like, I'll let you know when the first live Raw is. He's like, good, I'll watch it then.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah. And I think, too, with SummerSlam obviously being a little bit bigger of a deal, right after Money in the Bank is going to be a live Raw in front of people. And that's going to be the first Raw on the road to SummerSlam. So that's going to be a decent crowd. And then as we start to go to SummerSlam, and as SummerSlam builds, people are going to then be more interested if it's both the build to the big pay-per-view. Because that's one thing. I tune out of Raw and watch it, when I know something good happened, or go back and watch it. But before WrestleMania, knowing I was going to WrestleMania, knowing that WrestleMania was going to be a big show in front of fans, I tuned in because if I'm going to this event, I want to kind of do a little, I want to know. I want to, be ready to go. If I'm going to a Monday Night Raw, I watched the Raw before, so I go to Monday Night Raw and I know what's happening.
You know what's going on.
That kind of thing.
You know the storylines,
so, I'm going to SummerSlam this year, and more importantly, everyone's going to watch. It's a big event. So whether you're going or not going, it's a big event. And there's going to be people who are like, well, all right, this is your WrestleMania of the summer. It's going to be in front of this huge crowd. I imagine there's going to be some big matches.
I'm just going to say.
So you're going to tune into Raw because Raw is a little more intrigued when you think Brock Lesnar might be there on a whim, or you think something.
It's true.
Because right now we don't have that. Right now we just have the same players we've had for the last year and a half. There's no real great surprises. The Rock isn't showing up on Raw in front of no fans.
Here's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. But maybe Vince and WWE, upper management are holding their cards until the crowds are back. So they're not bringing back a Brock Lesnar until they know they're going to get that pop.
Well, I know we already did get the Edge, he's coming back kind of thing, and
yeah, but no offense to Edge, but Edge doesn't get the Brock Lesnar pop
I'd imagine that Brock Lesnar, The Rock, John Cena, none of these people are not coming back. And more importantly, until they do come back, when there is a live crowd, you're going to tune in for the expectation that they could come back.
Sure.
AEW's been kind of doing a little mix of things where they've had some pretty big debuts. Aleister Black might have debuted if there wasn't a crowd. Who knows? But for WWE,
Andrade,
people like John Cena, The Rock, Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, I don't see them showing up in The Undertaker other than his little farewell thing. I don't see them showing up in the Thunderdome to wrestle or to continue a wrestling storyline, except for when we were building up to WrestleMania.
I'm just hoping that we start to build, or hopefully they're working on things where it's a Roman Reigns Rock program at WrestleMania next year. I hope that happens. I really do, because I want to see that. And that will be a big box office attraction. And as we know, whose box office better than The Rock? Nobody.
Do you think we should have Roman and The Rock at WrestleMania, or do you think that should be a build to this year's WrestleMania with maybe like The Rock as like the special guest referee in Roman's match and then build to the following WrestleMania?
That's not a terrible idea. I mean, you could draw it out. It just depends on The Rock's filming schedule, because he'll be doing Fast like 15,
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't really matter The Rock's filming schedule because of the fact that he's not going to be there full time anyways.
I know.
But
but here's the thing: if he's in the middle of filming in another country, it's kind of hard for him to fly in and then fly back in 24 hours. The Rock would probably do it because The Rock's The Rock. He'll do what he has to do. But what I was reading recently was John Cena.
Yes, that's how we'll finish out this week's show.
He's filming in Europe.
So, do you think that has anything to do with him missing SummerSlam? Do you buy into those rumors, or are you still saying, no, I still see him on board heading up SummerSlam?
I think he's at SummerSlam. I think this is just what John Cena does. John Cena, if WWE wants him back and he can even fit in a 48-hour window, he's going to do it.
So John Cena at SummerSlam, despite the rumors that he's going to be filming come August in Europe. But that was during pandemic times as well, like when he couldn't go to WrestleMania.
Hey, now things are wide open.
Now he can come back from Europe.
Yeah, now things are more wide open.
So next week, the first SmackDown in front of fans, the first pay-per-view outside of WrestleMania in front of fans, that and so much more. Oh, and an NXT Championship match with Karrion Kross and Johnny Gargano. We'll talk all of that. Middle of summer, fans are back full-time, Ring of Honor, WWE, NXT, AEW, and so much more. For Brandon, I'm Jared. This has been another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast.